Go stand in front of a mirror right now. I will wait. Okay, look at yourself. Now raise your right hand. Your reflection just raised its left hand, didn't it? It feels like the mirror has performed some kind of instant 180-degree horizontal flip on your entire body. But here is the thing that will break your brain. Why didn't the mirror flip you up and down too? Why is your head still at the top and your feet still at the bottom? If a mirror can magically swap left and right, why is it so lazy that it refuses to swap your floor and your ceiling? Most people spend their entire lives looking into this piece of glass without ever realizing that the answer to this question reveals a fundamental truth about how our brains perceive the third dimension, and it is not what you think. At first glance, you might think the mirror is doing something physical to the light. Maybe the way the photons bounce off the silver backing creates a horizontal crossover, but that is not it at all. To understand why your reflection looks the way it does, we first have to admit something a little bit embarrassing. The mirror isn't actually flipping left and right. In fact, the mirror isn't flipping anything horizontally at all. We are the ones doing the flipping, and we have been lying to ourselves about it since we were babies. Let's do a quick experiment to prove it. Imagine you are holding a transparent piece of plastic, like a clear folder, and you have written the word magic on it in big black letters. If you hold that up to a mirror, you can still read it perfectly through the plastic. But if you turn it around to face the mirror, the word looks backwards. Did the mirror do that? No, you did. You physically rotated the plastic 180 degrees around a vertical axis to show it to the mirror. If you had flipped the plastic vertically by turning it over from top to bottom, the word would look upside down in the mirror instead. The mirror simply reflects exactly what is pointing at it. It is a one-to-one map of the space in front of it. If you point to the right, your reflection points to the right. If you point up, your reflection points up. If you point at the mirror, your reflection points right back at you. This is the key to the entire mystery. The mirror only flips things along one single axis, the z-axis, the axis of depth. Think of a mirror like a giant rubber stamp. If you press your face into a stamp covered in ink and then press that stamp onto a piece of paper, the image on the paper is flipped. But it is not flipped left to right. It is flipped front to back. It is an inversion. Imagine you are wearing a rubber mask of your own face. If you were to grab the nose of that mask and pull it through the back of your head so the whole thing was inside out, you would have a mirror image. Your right eye would be where your left eye was, but your forehead would still be on top.
This is exactly what a mirror is doing. It is turning the world inside out along the line of your sight. So if the mirror is only flipping front to back, why does our brain insist that the flip is left to right? The answer lies in how we are built. Humans are roughly bilaterally symmetrical. This means our left side looks almost exactly like our right side. When we see our reflection, our brain struggles to process the front-to-back inversion. It is a very weird way to see a person. So instead, our brain looks for a more familiar explanation. It imagines that we have walked behind the glass, turned around 180 degrees, and stood there facing ourselves. When you turn around to face someone, you usually rotate around your vertical axis, your spine. When you do that, your left hand and your right hand swap places relative to the person watching you. Because we do this every single time we interact with another human being, our brain assumes that the person in the mirror did the same thing. We imagine our reflection is a version of us that simply walked around and turned around. And because turning around involves swapping left and right, we blame the mirror for the flip. But think about this. What if we were built differently? What if humans were like slinkies, and we greeted people by doing a front flip over our heads? If that was our natural way of facing someone, we would look at a mirror and think, wow, mirrors really flip things up and down, don't they? The left and right flip is a psychological illusion caused by our own biology. We are so used to rotating horizontally that we cannot help but interpret the mirror's depth inversion as a horizontal flip. If you want to see how much your brain is tricking you, try this. Take a book and hold it up to the mirror. It looks backwards, right? Most of us say the mirror flipped the text, but look at what you actually did to the book. You took the book, which was facing you, and you rotated it 12 inches to the left or right so the pages face the glass. You are the one who turned the text around. If you want to see the text not flipped, try this. Get a piece of glass or clear plastic, write on it, and hold it up without turning it. The mirror shows it exactly as it is. The letters are perfectly readable. This proves the mirror is just a passive spectator. It is not an active flipper. It is just a surface that says, whatever you point at me, I will point back at you. If you point your thumb to the 3 o'clock position, the reflection points to 3 o'clock. If you point your head to 12 o'clock, the reflection points to 12 o'clock. But if you point your nose toward the glass, which we can call the first-person direction, the reflection points back toward you in the third-person direction. That is the only flip happening. depth, and depth alone. This has some pretty wild implications when you think about science and technology.
For example, have you ever wondered why ambulances have the word ambulance written backwards on the front of the hood? It is because the driver in front of them is going to look in their rearview mirror. The driver isn't going to turn their head around 180 degrees to look at the ambulance. They are going to use the mirror to look behind them. Because the mirror flips the depth, the letters that are closer to the mirror appear first. By pre-flipping the letters on the truck, the ambulance driver ensures that when the depth inversion happens in your mirror, the word pops out perfectly readable. It is a $50,000 vehicle using basic geometry to save lives. Another example is how we see ourselves versus how the world sees us. 99% of the time you see your own face, it is in a mirror. That means you are used to a version of yourself where your mole is on the left and your hair parts on the right. But to every other person on Earth, those features are on the opposite sides. This is why so many people hate how they look in photos. When you see a photo of yourself, you are seeing the non-inverted version, the way you actually look to others. But because your brain is so conditioned to the mirror's front-to-back flip, the photo looks wrong. It looks like a slightly distorted stranger is inhabiting your skin. It is called the mirror exposure effect. We prefer things we see more often, and since you see the flipped version of you every morning, that is the version you think is the real you, even though it is technically a depth-inverted ghost. There is actually a special kind of mirror called a non-reversing mirror, or a true mirror. You can make one by placing two mirrors at a 90-degree angle to each other. When you look into the corner where they meet, you see yourself as others see you. If you wink your right eye, the reflection winks its right eye. It feels incredibly unnerving to use one of these because your brain has been trained since birth to expect that left-right swap. When the swap doesn't happen, it feels like the mirror is haunted. It just goes to show how much of our reality is actually just a construct of our brain trying to make sense of simple physics. To wrap this up, remember this. Mirrors do not flip left and right, and they do not flip up and down. They flip in and out. They are the only objects in our daily lives that let us see a third dimension through a second dimension surface by reversing the direction of light. We are the ones who provide the confusion. We are the ones who turn things around and then get mad at the glass for showing us what we did. So the next time you are brushing your teeth and you think about how weird it is that you aren't standing on the ceiling, just remember, you are the one with the horizontal bias. The mirror is just standing there, reflecting the truth, one photon at a time.